Romantic gestures that are actually major red flags. Have you ever met someone who just seems to check all the boxes? It feels like a breath of fresh air. You might find yourself falling head over heels for this person, thinking they're the one. But be careful, they might be checking all the right boxes for the wrong reasons. There are certain types of behaviors and romantic gestures that can be huge red flags. Although these things might be charming, they aren't done for the right reasons. For example, someone might shower you with gifts or admiration. It seems great, right? It could actually be something called love bombing. Love bombing is when someone showers you with attention or admiration in hopes to influence you. In their mind, this might make up for bad things they've done to you. It definitely isn't romantic, although it may appear to be. Talking about being soulmates. Who doesn't love to daydream about who their soulmate is? We all do, and we all want to find that someone special. However, this shouldn't be something that is jumped into head first. It also shouldn't be talked about lightly or randomly. You should feel like the person really means what they're saying, and the two of you should be on the same page. When someone tries to tell you that they think you're their soulmate, it can actually be a way for them to get you to depend on them. It will almost be like you feel safe, and you'll kind of begin to imagine more serious things with them. This will mean you might be less likely to call them out on their poor behaviors, or that you'll stay with them regardless. Gift giving. As mentioned briefly, showering someone with gifts can be a form of love bombing. This isn't your normal birthday present or a few flowers. These would be more serious gifts like a trip somewhere for the two of you, expensive jewelry, or even a pet. It could be something a little less expensive, but either way, you should be able to tell that something seems off. It may be how frequently they give you gifts or how early on in the relationship. Or you might even be caught off guard by the gift and immediately know something feels strange. Sharing too much, too soon. While sharing feelings can create a sense of intimacy, there is a time and a place to do so. Someone who is displaying red flags might share too much too soon. For instance, they might share about their past relationships. If you two weren't on the subject in the first place, this could be a warning sign. If they negatively talk about their ex, this is definitely something to not overlook. They might not be emotionally available for a new relationship, or might fail to see their shortcomings in their past relationship. In addition to sharing too much, your person shouldn't be sharing too much with you, period. It isn't fair to offload all of your problems onto someone, and they should be somewhat wary of this. You shouldn't feel burdened by any conversation where sharing is involved. Wanting to spend all of their time with you. Although wanting to spend time around a romantic interest is completely normal, there is a fine line between this and suffocating someone with the need for time with them. In a healthy, balanced relationship, the two of you should both have your own things. When someone wants to do nothing but spend time around you, although flattering, they could be showing some serious red flags. Spending time around each other is great, but it becomes too much when it feels demanding. You should in no way feel pressured to spend more time around someone than you're comfortable with. Making big promises. When dating someone, it is always nice to be reminded that your heart is safe with the person you're dating. They might promise you that they'll never leave you or hurt you, which are nice things to hear. However, if you catch your partner making promises that feel a bit far-fetched, this could be something to keep an eye on. It's often the people who claim to never do something that end up doing that exact same thing. Be aware of the promises they're making and hold them accountable for their own actions, telling you that you're the reason for their happiness. While it's a good thing to make one another happy, you should never try to find happiness in another person. Although you might feel happier than usual when talking to someone new, this happiness sort of fades over time. If one person in the relationship is the only source of happiness, this could be a huge warning sign. Happiness is something you create for yourself, not something that can be mooched off of someone else. Too much communication. It is natural to want to talk to someone you're crushing on all of the time. You might spend the beginning of your relationship eager to text each other back and getting butterflies when the other one does. This is completely normal. When someone seems to be talking to you too much, however, this could become bothersome. They should respect your space and be aware that you cannot always respond. If someone makes you feel guilty for this, it isn't a form of healthy communication. They seem to be overly needy. Similarly to creating happiness for yourself, each individual in a relationship should be somewhat independent. You've lived an entire life of your own, and so have they. There should be no reason that someone seems overly needy. This can feel smothering to a person and is detrimental to the relationship. If someone is too needy, you should be careful because this could mean they're too dependent on you. There's an obvious distinction between wanting your attention and not being able to live without it. Being too protective. In your close circle, it is important to know that you have people who have your back. However, if someone you're dating is becoming too protective of you, it could be a red flag. You shouldn't feel as if he is the only one checking up on you out of jealousy or insecurity. This would mean that he's acting more controlling than protective, and when someone feels the need to control in a relationship, this is by no means an equal relationship. When you're protective of someone, it is important to not be overbearing. Superficial gestures. Anything fake is likely no good. If something is done to impress other people instead of simply an act of care or kindness, then it is a huge red flag. This means the person cares more about their own self-image than they do about you. While it is nice to feel good for giving to someone, it shouldn't be superficial or have no meaning at all. At the beginning of a relationship, you might look out for if someone is trying to impress you in superficial ways. For example, they might drive the nicest car or brag about the nice things that they have. This is usually done to impress you and stroke their own ego. Being too affectionate. Similar to being too protective, too much affection is never a good sign. This can be overwhelming to your romantic interest. There should be enough room left for some sort of desire to exist within the relationship. This won't have an opportunity to grow if they're giving all of their affection in one sitting. This could not only be a huge turnoff, but it can feel somewhat overwhelming. If it feels too smothering, this could create resentment or a lack of desire for the other. As with the other potential red flags mentioned, there should always be a sense of balance. If something ever feels too much, it likely is, and you should trust your gut. Saying "I love you" too soon. Hearing these 3 words is something most of us look forward to. It's an exciting part of a relationship and something to be cherished. However, when someone says they love you too soon into dating, this could be something to be wary of. At the beginning of a relationship, you might not know each other well enough to be saying such serious things. If these types of gestures are made, you might want to take a couple steps back instead of rushing into things too soon. Constantly showing you off. While this may seem like something flattering, it can actually be a red flag. If you find that someone is showing you off too much or bragging about you, it could be something more superficial than anything. They might be showing you off to feed their ego or talking you up to people on a superficial level. On the surface, it might seem sweet that they're interested in talking about you to others, when in reality it means nothing more than just that. Planning your future together. This will usually be something that you'll be on the same page about with someone. Typically, the conversation of planning a future will come about as the relationship gets more serious. However, if someone is talking about these things very early on, it is definitely time to take a few steps back. It can be tempting to talk about these things and romanticize them, but this should only happen when the time is right. Spontaneity. At the beginning of a relationship, you might find yourself going out on dates or trying new things with someone. This is part of the reason why the beginning of a relationship seems so exciting. Who doesn't love a bit of spontaneity? However, when someone is too spontaneous, this can be a warning sign. As the relationship progresses, it should be more consistent rather than spontaneous. If someone can't plan things with you and always seems to do things at the last minute, this could be signs of inconsistency. An eagerness to change for you. While someone wanting to make changes for you can seem charming, it might be something to watch out for. Although we all want to be the best version of ourselves that we can be, this doesn't mean we should go changing our entire lives to fit someone else's narrative. If someone tries to live up to something that they think you want them to be, it's likely that they don't know who they are themselves. This certainly wouldn't be someone you'd want to get into a more serious relationship with. Well, now that you're more aware, you can be sure to recognize any of these potential red flags. From what you've learned, it is apparent that most of these gestures actually seem to be charming. They might even make you feel charmed, however, it would be wise to use your best discretion when considering if they are appropriate. You can usually consider the amount of time you've been seeing someone, how often these gestures are done, or if something is feeling off about it. When you pay attention to these red flags early on, it could save you a lot of trouble later down the road. Don't let someone fool you into thinking that they're charming, and be careful who you give your heart to.